Hello and welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. People may not have noticed this, but I do try to alternate the companies that I review from with each episode. As in, I'll do a Marvel, then an independent book, then a DC, then an independent book, then a Marvel again, and etc. Exceptions are made for multi-part episodes and something I haven't talked about yet, company imprints. Yeah, thing is, Marvel and DC actually have owned more than one company before. Not so much Marvel these days, but definitely DC. For example, DC owns Vertigo and Wildstorm. While officially owned by DC, they are their own separate imprints with their own rules and books and styles, hence why I count them as independents when I feature some of their stuff. Now, Marvel once upon a time owned an imprint called Star Comics. Whoa, ease up with the creativity with company names, Marvel. Next you'll be calling a line Super Comics. Star Comics published mostly toy and television tie-ins that Marvel had the licenses to. In this case, we have Air Raiders, based on a toy line of the same name. I can't speak to the quality of the toys themselves since, well, I'd never heard of them until this comic, but they look okay for kid toys of the late 80s. That being said, the premise of this series is really kind of stupid. But I'll get into that once we dig into Air Raiders number 1.
Welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn. Linkar's gonna teach you all a lesson you won't learn. Rusty, you're not the smartest. Liefeld, you're not an artist. Anyone who said a bad comic published, it could be your turn. Linkara, he's the man. Punch, where's the birdie hat? Linkara, he has a magic gun. Where he purchased that? Linkara, coins, robots, Amazons and trucks. Linkara, this comic sucks. Linkara.
This isn't really a bad cover, and certainly more lively than the standard pinup nonsense we've been seeing the last few weeks. That being said, I do have a few complaints. First of all, this caption. Swashbuckling super action on a far-out fantasy-filled world. I love alliteration. It's such an educational statement. I never knew swashbuckling involved laser guns, hovercrafts, and missiles. Next is the tagline. The power is in the air. While that statement is indeed true, it's not true in the way they intended. With that tagline, you'd assume it's in the power is yours kind of crap like in Captain Planet, or maybe a vague metaphysical thing like the Force, before that turned out to be germs. No, rather it's that those who control the air have power, much like how in Dune...
He who controls the spice controls the universe.
I don't know, maybe it's just me nitpicking, but the statement feels a little misleading is all. Both good guys and bad guys fly, so it's not like the Air Raiders are unique. Also, that logo is freaking huge! Don't get me wrong, it's a great logo, but it takes up a third of the page! Anyway, we open to Airlandia. Airlandia. Hey everybody, welcome to my room, now known as Futonopia. A highly technological world where air is more valuable than gold. So, they're technologically advanced, but they don't know how to produce air in large quantities. And on Airlandia... Airlandia? Seriously? This valuable commodity is controlled by the evil ruler Aerozar and the tyrants of wind. It's not that surprising, though, that he got elected. The opposing party was Soilazar and the Stormtroopers of Dirt. At least Aerozar had a useful commodity at his disposal. The only opposition to these oppressors is the heroic band of rebels known as the Air Raiders! And so the story begins properly with these big purple robot things harassing a guy in tattered rags. Now, you ungrateful air hoarder! Oh, excuse me, I just need to hoard some air. You'll give as much air to Aerozar as he wants, or it'll be off to the air mines of Tyrix with you! How exactly does one mine air? And here's a question. If air is so important to these dorks, why don't they plant a tree, or a shrub, or maybe a bush or something? Just saying. But then again, this entire concept doesn't make any sense. Dialogue states that they're in a protective dome, so they're getting oxygen from somewhere or else they'd all be dead. We need air to live! Nah, really? Free air for free men! Slave air for slave men! We also see other parts of the marketplace where actually people seem quite content despite the lack of air. It's a veritable Renaissance festival out there, with a juggler, people dressed in medieval clothing, despite this being a technologically advanced society and all, and a street vendor selling air burgers. Wait, what? Guys, Spaceballs was kidding when they had stuff like air in soda cans. As more people start shouting, "Free air for free men!" we learn a very important fact about this far-out fantasy-filled world. They feel compelled to shove the word air into every aspect of their lives. Consider Aerazar, Airlandia, Air Burgers, and now Air Lancers. Okay guys, we get it. Air is kind of important. How much do you want to bet that half the women on this planet are named Ariel? Behind the scenes, we see the Grim Reaper, or rather this guy wearing a very conspicuous robe. You'd think by now evil overlords would have outlawed face-concealing cloaks, so this kind of thing wouldn't happen. Anyway, this introduces us to Rock and Hook, air raiders working with a local resistance movement to fight the evil local baron. Several miles outside the village, a few more of the air raiders await the signal from Rock to begin an attack. See anything, Con?
Yeah, Sarah. Don't get yourself overinflated.
Get it? 'Cause they're all into air and stuff. Ha! After a signal flare is shot into the sky by Rock, the rest of the air raiders fly out on their ships.
Air raiders ride the wind! Our resistance force is sponsored by the band Poison. Ride the wind, never coming back until I reach the midnight sun.
Despite the fact that these air raiders are several miles away, the leader of the Air Lancers spots the approaching ships and tells his troops to take to the skies. Back in the alleyways, Rock and Hook make their way to a rendezvous with the local resistance.
The signal flare is launched. The air raiders should be on their way. Sounds like they've arrived.
And judging by that explosion, they're creating lots of collateral damage and civilian casualties. Excellent. The resistance leader gives our heroes a tour of the slums, expositing about how Baron Sunder demands excessive tribute from air farmers. Make up your mind, comic. Is air mined or farmed? Come to think of it, what kind of economic system is this where the only form of compensation is air? And is air some sort of all-purpose commodity and bartering tool? They say in the comic that they need to sell leftover air to air distributors, and we see there are air miners and air farmers. Are there air accountants? Air video game designers? Air prostitutes? And again, I remind you, everyone seems to be breathing quite well despite the lack of any visible oxygen tanks, so why exactly is air such a prized resource? You may have also noticed that I haven't mentioned several character names. Well, I figured that since they don't contain the word air or have any puns or words based off of air, they probably weren't important. Anyway, we learn the mission of the air raiders.
Aerazar and all of the tyrants of wind will be overthrown. Then we'll restore Airlandia to what it was before the Great Disaster.
Great Disaster? Countdown! Ah! Knew I should have installed a window there. So, the jet attack is a distraction to get the two air raiders to the galvanic air tanks. The resistance leader walks off, telling the two, "Ride the wind, air raider!" Seriously, this society needs a marketing consultant. Or if you're gonna have a song by Poison, why not just go all out and have your battle cry, "Every rose has its thorn"? The two raiders walk down to the tank's guards and pretend to be beggars.
Spare a credit for a couple of veterans down on their luck?
Credits? I thought you people sold air! How does this economy work? When the guard refuses, Rock pulls a gun.
Are you sure? It's tax deductible. Care to buy a gun?
So then he hits him with a stick. Wait, huh? Just a panel ago he was holding the gun! And how is that stick knocking him back when he's in full armor? Hook, living up to his name, takes the other guard's gun away with his, well, hook. Rock takes this one out with his bare hands. Is their armor made of purple tinfoil? More guards show up while the two wait for their hover ships to arrive and pick up the air tanks. Hook suddenly gets very ponderous with his dialogue. These guys, are crawling, out from under every rock, I think the writer, didn't know what they were, doing. We have to hold them off until the rest of the air raiders can get to us. They better get here soon, There are just too many of these guys for us to handle with these blasters, Blasters? You guys are hitting them with a stick in your bare hands. Air Raider Jad, come on, Jad, really? Shows up and grabs hold of the tanks. Why don't we see how Kronax's goons feel about some freeze breeze? Said freeze breeze is pretty darn precise, icing up the guns of the guards, but not the guards themselves. Hook and Rock activate their boot jets to fly up. Let's give some cover to Hook, and then let's liberate some air! Oh, the Air Raiders work for PETA, People for the Ethical Treatment of Air. The Air Raiders, after spouting off some majorly lame air puns, are continually chased by the Air Lancers. Just a little bit further, Air Raiders. Soon we'll be in the petrified cloud forest. Clouds are water vapor. They do not petrify. No, they've made it into the forest. It would be foolish to follow them into their home ground, even if we could follow them through that maze. No, they're in a forest of quote-unquote petrified clouds. Our advanced weapons and jets could never hope to shoot through those. So, navigating through the maze of clouds, the Air Raiders arrive in an actual forest. We do learn through some exposition that the cruel dictator Arazar has prohibited trees from being grown. Well, I guess that does explain why there weren't any plants in the village, but this just begs the question of why. Of all the resources a dictator could use to maintain power over a society, he chose air of all things. Seems to me food and water would do the job more effectively and with a lot less plot holes, but I guess Food Raiders doesn't have quite the same punch as a title, does it? After some clumsy exposition that's meant to give characterization to some bland people, Rock meets up with the Air Raiders' leader, simply referred to as Admiral in the book. Rock is upset that while their mission was successful, the people in the town are still being oppressed. While I was in Sachbar, I saw a town of impoverished people barely able to survive for the lack of air. Again, I remind you, in this town we saw a juggler, 2 street merchants, several yelling people, several resistance fighters standing tall, ready to fight, and maybe like 2 guys crawling around. But even those 2 guys crawling around look more like they're sick because of a lack of food, not air. Everyone else seemed to be breathing quite comfortably. I'm not even that much against the story concept of controlling the population through air. I'm just asking for some consistency here. At the castle of Baron Sunder, a group of barons meets with Arazar himself, who bears an uncanny resemblance to Gaston from Beauty and the Beast. Arazar asks the various barons if they've had any problems with the Air Raiders. I can assure you that we are not troubled by them in my southern barony. This is also true in my barony to the east. The Air Raiders were crushed in my westerny land a long time ago. And you, Baron Harkonnen? The Air Raiders will die before these eyes, and they'll know that it is I, Baron Vladimir Harkonnen, who encompasses their doom! Yeah, I know, I keep cutting back to Dune, but it's honestly more entertaining than this. That's right, a David Lynch film holds my attention more than this comic. Arazar is told by his right-hand man that Sunder's barony was just attacked by the Air Raiders and his tribute was stolen. He commands Sunder to go back to the village and get a new tribute from the villagers. And don't forget to collect all Air Raider sympathizers and put them to work in the air refineries. Are there air Swiffer sheets? Air vending machines? Do they play air guitar? I have so many questions! Back at the village, the Air Raiders have arrived again to play Robin Hood with their stolen air tanks. All of a sudden, the villagers are all wearing gas masks. Did the artist just screw up the first few pages? Why do they now have to wear these? But here's what really confuses me. They spot Air Lancers on their way to the village, and we get a closer look at Rock in his purple armor. Not only is his nose uncovered for the breathing mask, but there's no faceplate. What's the point of wearing protective masks if they don't protect you and help you breathe? So the Air Raiders take to the skies and engage the Lancers. Come on, Air Raiders! Let's show the Air Lancers what a couple of twin lightnings and some Proster torpedoes can do to invincible Hawkwinds! Did you get that down, kids? Those are the toys you should buy! Rock gets captured by the Baron's troops and is brought before him. Rock, I've waited a long time to catch up with you again. When we last saw each other, I swore I would see you dead to protect your family's honor. Today, I keep that vow. Air Lancer, remove my son's breather! Rock, the son of Baron Sunder? Yeah, turns out Rock is Baron Sunder's son. Who'da thunk it? However, because we've seen just how effective these troops are, Rock literally lifts the guy up over his head, takes his gun, and shoves the guard into some other Lancers. These Lancers continue to prove their ineptitude when they accidentally shoot Baron Sunder's breathing helmet. Sorry, sir, we just can't see a thing in these helmets! So Rock goes up to his dear old dad, who's suffocating. Rock, my breather! It's damaged! Please give me air! Dude, just take off your helmet. No one else is having any problems breathing. Father, I have no air to give, but perhaps if you vowed to leave this village and its air alone, now and in the future...
Come on, Cohagen, you got what you want. Give these people air.
So Baron Sunder gives his word, and Rock knows his father well enough to know that his word is genuine. And so, with more recitations of their idiotic catchphrases, Rock and the Air Raiders fly off into the sunset. Next issue, Castle Intrigue. Finally, a comic that understands the potential drama and action that can result from real estate. This comic sucks. There's no character development beyond cliché, their attempts at making this a unique world just make it silly, and the action is frankly subpar. Bottom line, if you want to read a comic based on toys, go hunt down Rom's Space Knight.
But I guess that's why they say every rose has its thorn. Just like every night has its dawn. Just like every cowboy sings a sad song. Every rose has its thorn. Yeah, it does.
Hey, kids! Are poorly produced dystopian tales getting you down? Do you want your resistance movement to have better fashion sense than purple armor that makes them indistinguishable from the forces they're fighting? Do you want better catchphrases than those that seem pretty self-explanatory even without the catchphrase? Then I think it's time you take a look at Revolution of the Mask! Conveniently, issue 2 is now available, featuring a dystopia that doesn't have the word air anywhere near it, features superheroes who actually have unique characters and looks, and the catchphrases actually sound like catchphrases and are not just lifted from metal bands. Head over to brainscancomics.com now and buy it for the low, low price of 72 cents. Seriously, I wrote the thing, so you know it's gonna be at least halfway decent. Do it now! After all, how am I gonna pay for Hookers and Blow? I mean those wonderful reviews of crappy comics. We're gonna edit that in the final version, right?